Hey everyone, welcome to Solo Party. My name is Kane. Today we are beginning the new solo scenarios in the Cloudspire Harbinger expansions. We're going to be playing these in chronological order as far as the timeline of Cloudspire goes, and that has us beginning as Horizon's Wrath up in the top left, and we are going up against the Shada, who have their fortress on the right, as well as some of the air. So, as usual, I'm not really going to be teaching how to play. I'm just going to be playing the scenario and I'll explain as much as I think I need to along the way. So, to give a brief overview, we have 4 waves in this solo scenario. And in order to win, we need to be able to complete one of 3 objectives. At the end of wave 4, have a gunboat spire on Hex A with 5 or more upgrades. At the end of wave 4, all minaret spires are defeated. And defeat the Shada Fortress Gate. And if we ever do that, that will immediately end the scenario. We have a few special scenario rules. We have floating rocks are treated like path hexes, except units cannot end their movement on them. When a unit moves onto a floating rock, it must immediately roll a spire attack die. If the unit rolls a miss, it loses 1 health. Units with the talent flying do not need to roll dice in this way. And so the floating rocks they're talking about are these different upside down market chips that we have around the map between the open air and the hexes. When we resolve the strategic maneuver, we may attach the fortress to any isle that has a Horizon's Wrath spire. Strategic maneuver refers to one of our fortress abilities where we are essentially a flying pirate ship and we can detach from where we're at, basically undock from the island and then go reattach somewhere else. And so normally there's other restrictions about where we can go to, but these scenario rules say we can go anywhere that has a Horizon's Wrath spire. So currently that's nowhere, but obviously we're going to change that as the scenario goes on. And the final scenario rule is that we may have up to 3 heroes in play at a time instead of the normal 2, and we may deploy multiple heroes in the same wave and are not restricted to our starting hero for wave 1. And now we have a few AI rules that our opponents will be following. While the Wind Shear Spire, this one in the middle on the left, is in play, all Shada minions gain the talent Flying. So they will not have to be worried about rolling on those floating rock hexes. Then air units deploy from the minaret spire of the number matching the current wave. So this is the C1 spire, C2, C3, and C4. So since we're in wave 1, they're going to start by spawning here as if this spire were the fortress gate. And now for our marks, we already have them placed. We are marked on the Shada fortress, and both the Shada and the air are marked on our fortress. And then we have the results of our event die. Because we don't use an event deck in the solo mode, we basically have an event chart that we roll a die on. And so for wave 1, the first thing we do is start with rolling the event die. And for each of these waves, we are going to go first, and then the Shada, and then the airs. So let's start by rolling the event die. Okay, on a 2. For this wave, Horizon's Wrath units do not need to roll Spire attack dice when traversing floating rocks. Okay, that's pretty good. Next, for the income phase, we are going to gain 6 source. For the market phase, the AI isn't going to be buying anything, and I don't think we are either. We are going to be saving our 6 source, I think, for our build step. As part of setup, we were able to start with 3 equipment already in our inventory that we'll be able to equip to heroes as we play the game. And then all other equipment were removed, and those are what you see are our floating rocks. Those are all the equipment that didn't get picked. So we're going to skip the market phase. Next, for the build phase, we'll spend 3 source in order to take the level 1 hold ability Stowaways. This upgrade is going to allow us to return defeated swappy minions to our barracks through the Invigorate ability at a discount of 1 source. Normally it would cost us 2, now it only costs us 1. And so we need to be really precious about our source because this is the only income phase in this scenario where we gain source. Every other income phase is 0. So we're only gaining source from defeating enemies and landmarks and spires and things of that nature. For the prep phase, we were given 5 CP. So let's look at the units we chose for that. On top of the stack, we have a glider with 2 health, 1 attack, and 3 movement. It can move over any terrain, and it has the flying, breakneck, and 2 range talent. Flying can only be used while ungrouped, and it basically means that it can only be attacked by other units with flying or spires with air defense. And other units can still displace you if they would move through you and then you would just swap positions. Then breakneck means that this unit must make as much progress as possible when moving, and during its movement, this unit may pass through units, spires, and landmarks, but cannot end its movement on an occupied hex. And then its range tells it how far it can attack and retaliate from, so it has a range of 2. Next, we have a Swabby with 1 health, 0 attack, and 2 movement. Invigorate, Press Gang, and Slap. Invigorate means when this unit is defeated, you may promote 1 friendly active minion or the newly revealed unit grouped under this one. Press Gang says when defeated, you may spend 2 source, and because we have that hold upgrade, now we only have to spend 1 source to place this unit back in your barracks, otherwise it's removed from the game. So any of them that we don't spend that 1 source for, we're not going to get to see again. And then Slap says that this unit attacks and retaliates even if its attack stat is 0. Then we have our Buccaneer with 3 health, 2 attack, 2 movement, and Hunter. And Hunter simply means that when it is attacking landmark minions, we deal +1 damage. And finally, we have our starting hero, Mistbane, 3 health, 1 attack, 3 movement, with the Swashbuckler trait, and we can move into grasslands as well. Swashbuckler says, when this unit attacks, you may increase the damage dealt by 1 for each opposing unit adjacent to it. If you do, and a unit, spire, or fortress gate is defeated by the attack, this unit does not level up, and you do not receive the shown reward. So, we can increase the damage we deal, but at a cost of not getting those rewards. And now you'll notice that our fortress gate is more in the center of our fortress, and we have a plank chip there in front of us. That plank chip, while out, is going to count as a path space. Now we begin the onslaught phase. Campfire mode will not trigger, and we're not going to use any limited build options at this time. So now we go to our unit movement, starting with the top of our stack. The glider will move 3 spaces. Then our Swabby moves 2. Then our Buccaneer will move 2. And then Mistbane is going to have to end on the plank. Now we're definitely not in range of any towers just yet. So we'll get to go on to our exploration phase, and I think we will go ahead and take a look at both of these landmarks. And yeah, I think we'll go ahead and reveal our Traxor Tracker. It has 4 health, 1 attack, and 3 movement, and that's because it is recruitable. It has Lookout 2 and Hunter. So recruitable means that if we attack it this turn and it's not controlled by another faction, at the end of the round, we'll get to gain control of it. Lookout 2 means at the start of our turn, we can look at landmarks up to 2 spaces away, and then that doesn't count as our Explorer. And then Hunter, again, that's what our Buccaneer has, that it deals +1 damage to landmarks. So we could choose to potentially recruit this, or maybe we want to kill it to get that source since we don't really have any income phase. And we'll also go ahead and reveal the Bounty Hunter. It has 4 health and 2 movement, and the Fair Fight talent, which just means whatever we attack it for is what it retaliates for. For our attack step, we get to choose the order our minions and heroes attack, so we're going to start with our Swabby to attack the Tracker Traxor. And the reason this is, all of our minions that have a target have to attack, and even though our Swabby only has 0 attack for its stat, it does have Slap, which still allows it to make an attack. And the reason we want to do that first with Swabby is so it will waste its retaliation on our unit we want to die, because then we want it to trigger the Invigorate and trigger the Press Gang to be able to return it to our barracks. So we attack with the Swabby for 0, but then it retaliates for 1 and defeats the Swabby. And with the Swabby defeated, we will spend 1 source in order to put it back in our barracks, and then we're going to go ahead and upgrade our Buccaneer. So with the Swabby defeated, we spent 1 source in order to put it back in our barracks, and then we're going to go ahead and upgrade our Buccaneer. So now it is going to have that Pistolier trait, and now it can also go in grasslands. Pistolier says, when attacking, this unit may attack an opposing unit 2 hexes away, and if it does, flip this unit to its other side and remove an upgrade of your choice. And now that we have Pistolier with our Buccaneer, we can actually shoot the Bounty Hunter instead of the Traxor Tracker. And so we have an attack stat of 2, and we get +1 from Hunter since it is a landmark to deal 3 damage. And since it doesn't have range, we will not get retaliated back. And now we can choose our Glider to make an attack on the Bounty Hunter and defeat it. And we won't be retaliated back since it got defeated. So that'll also gain us 3 source, going up to 5. And Miss Bane doesn't have any valid targets, so it is the end of our turn, and we are going to be able to recruit the Traxxer Tracker. Then we'll go over to the Shada. Now, the Shada begin with 2 wind, they have 2 health, 1 attack, 4 movement, air defense, meaning that they can attack units with flying, and gust, which just means if they start their movement on a plains hex, or I've been calling it grasslands, that they get +1 added to their movement. And so a special thing with Shada movement, you can see it has the grassland symbol there. So let's say that were mountain, for instance, that would only mean that they could travel on path and mountain. So even though grassland essentially means that you can already just travel on grassland and path, if you see that for the higher up terrain, it means that it's just path and that terrain. They kind of stick to their element. So each of them are simply going to try to make as much progress towards their mark as possible. So let's move them up. Then we don't have any spires at all, so obviously we're going to be skipping that step. AI units do not explore, so we skip that. And there is nothing for them to attack. Even though they are adjacent to the air spire, AI factions are considered allied to each other, so they will not be attacking each other. They are only going after us, denoted by the marks that we have on our fortress. So we can simply go to the air. Now the air have quite a way to go from this position. They have 2 Harrier. Each of them have 2 health, 1 attack, and can move 4, and also quick strike, which means they will be able to make their attack before the spire attack step. So with a move of 4, they're going to go forward, but they are not going to be able to end their turn on a floating rock. So they are going to have to stop just shy of that. And that's everything for the air. So now we go back to Horizon's Wrath. And now at the start of our turn, we will once again be skipping the campfire and limited build option and go into our movement. And whenever you move, you always have to start with the leading minion, which is going to be our glider. So they're going to move forward 3. And not only do they have flying to be able to help them avoid the spire attack die roll from crossing the floating rock, we also rolled that event die number that allows all of our Horizon Wrath units to avoid rolling that anyways. Then next, we move our tracker, and we'll have to stop just shy of that floating rock. Then our Buccaneer behind the tracker, and we'll move Mistbane off the plank. Now for exploration, let's go ahead and check out what's next to our glider. And now we have the Burnout cast with 3 health, 2 attack, and 2 movement. It has Fountain and Entropy. Fountain says, at the start of each round, all faction units adjacent to the landmark minion recover 2 health, and then discard the chip at the end of the wave. And Entropy says that if this health were to be reduced to exactly 1, it does not retaliate and is immediately discarded, dealing 2 damage to adjacent non-Nararan units, which we are not using in this scenario. But I think for now, we do not want to reveal this. Okay, I should not have looked at it yet. I got ahead of myself. We do have a spire that can attack our glider because the minarets do have air defense. So it has an attack stat of 2, so we'll be rolling 2 die. We can potentially survive this attack. Okay, and with 1 damage, we did survive the attack. So it's okay that we saw it, we did survive. And now for our attack step, the only option we have is to attack the minaret spire with our glider because we do have range 2. So we will attack the spire and take off that bottom attack upgrade. Now it's the Shada's turn, and they're going to start by moving up to us. And that first wind is going to be able to engage our glider. No steps activate until we get to attack, so we'll go ahead and have that wind attack our glider and defeat it, so it will not be able to retaliate. And now the air continue their long journey, so moving 4 forward, and it goes back to us. At the start of our turn, we'll use our tracker's lookout ability to check out this landmark to the south of us. And some whispers of what's to come. A fragmented graft. Some familiar faces there. It's got 6 health, 1 attack, Foreboding, Untamed, and Prowl. So Foreboding does mean that we do have to reveal it now. Untamed means that this unit may never be placed under control of a faction, and Prowl says that at the start of each round, the player with the fewest spires must move this unit 2 hexes in the direction of their choice. If tied, the tied player that goes latest in turn order moves. If this unit ends its movement adjacent to a fortress gate, it attacks the gate immediately. Okay, so obviously we have the least amount of spires and probably will for at least another wave or 2. So we'll be able to at least push that away from our fortress gate towards the Shada. I don't know if we have enough turns to get it all the way over there, but maybe we can at least get it out of our way. Now we'll go into our movement step, and we really don't have many options here. We've got to continue our tracker forward, and then the Buccaneer and Miss Bane are going to get held up on the other side of that floating rock. Now, the Minaret still has 2 range, so is going to be able to attack our tracker from there. But we knocked off one of the attacks, so it is only rolling 1 die. And that's going to be 1 damage to the tracker. And then because these units have flying, we have no way to deal damage to them right now with our tracker. So we will not be doing any exploring or attacking, and we will end it there, and it'll go over to the Shada. They are locked in there with us right now, so they're going to go straight into the attack step. That first wind is going to attack our tracker for 1, and we will get to retaliate for 1 as well. Then we take it over to the air, who continue the long walk. Okay, so Prowl happens at the start of each round, so that's actually good. Maybe we can get it to the Fortress Gate. We'll go ahead and push it to that direction into the forest, because it does have up to mountain clearance. And then the rest of our units are kind of stuck where they're at. We could use our, we could move our hero a little bit more, but I think we're kind of fine just to leave him right there. If anything, on a future turn, we might move him up onto that plains adjacent to the path in order to be able to draw range if we get to our Pistolier ability. But I don't think that's going to happen. So really, with nothing else we can do this turn, we end it there. The Spire attack step still happened, and so our tracker will take a dice roll worth of damage. And it's a miss. That's great for us. So we will then simply end our turn and give it back over to the Shada. They are also pretty locked in right here, so that front Shada is just going to be attacking our tracker for 1, and then we will retaliate and defeat it, which will net us 1 source, putting us up to 6. And back to the air for more movement. Then back to us, we finally have a little bit of path cleared for us to move forward. At the start of our turn, we will move that grafted 2 more towards the Shada Fortress. Then our tracker will move up 1, and our Buccaneer will finally be able to cross over as well, and we'll leave Mistbane right on the other side. And then we'll go to the Spire firing phase. And AI is going to target a minion it can defeat first before a minion that it could just damage, so it is going to try to defeat the tracker here with a roll of the die. And it does defeat the tracker. Okay, we will skip exploring again, and we will make an attack with our Pistolier on the Minaret Tower. And so we are dealing 2 damage, but you can only take off 1 upgrade from a tower at a time, so that will take out that range upgrade. And now with our Buccaneer where it's at, the Minaret won't be able to target us, because now it only has its base range of 1. Then it's going to be an easy turn for the Shada. The wind is going to move up to attack our Buccaneer and deal it 1 damage, but then we will retaliate for 2 and defeat it. And that'll give us another source, putting us at 7. Now with the Shada eliminated for this wave, it's just us and the Heirs, so let's go ahead and move these Harrier forward. And so AI units and landmark minions are antagonistic toward each other, so we are going to have an attack step here with the Harrier, and both the Graft and the Harrier will take 1 damage. At the start of our turn, we'll move the Graft 2 more spaces forward. Then we'll move both our Buccaneer and Mistbane forward. Now for the Spire attack step, it can only target the Buccaneer because it doesn't have any more extra range, just the 1 innate. So it is going to be targeting the Buccaneer for 1 roll of the die. And a miss. We love to see it. So we don't really need the heal from the fountain that is at that ruins right there, but we will get source from defeating it. And I think we are about to take out this Minaret pretty soon as well. So, okay, let's focus on the Minaret first. So we'll skip the exploration and go ahead and just attack the Minaret with our Buccaneer and defeat it. And that'll give us 1 more source, going to 8. Now the air will move. And now this second Harrier is going to clash with the Graft. And it's once again back to us, so we'll push the Graft 2 more forward. Then we'll go to our move. Then we'll go straight to attack, and we'll defeat this Harrier. And we're not having to attack from 2 away with our Pistolier, so we aren't having to activate that and flip back over just yet. We get another 2 source, going to 10. Then the Harrier will move to attack our Buccaneer, and that'll deal it 1 damage, but it will also retaliate and defeat the Harrier for another 2 source, putting us at 12. Now, at the start of our turn, we will push our Graft forward, and they have finally made it to the Fortress Gate. So they will attack it for 1, and the fortress will retaliate for 1. We are now the only faction with units left on the board, so our hero is in campfire mode and cannot activate for the rest of this wave, but our remaining unit will act as normal. Well, our remaining minion, so our buccaneer is going to move. And we are going to have the minaret attack us during the spire attack step because we don't want that inferno to activate on the flame pillar, which is going to give it more upgrades when it attacks. So the minaret is going to roll 2 die at us. And I'll be shocked if we survive here, but I would like to see it. Yeah, definitely not. 3 damage defeats our buccaneer and brings about the end of the wave. Okay, first thing we need to do for the second wave is roll the event die. And on a 3, we're going to increase the cannonball die by 2. We gain no source during the income phase, and then we'll go to a normal market phase. And for the market phase, I do think we have a lot of good options here, but I think we're going to take the hero Baza. So we'll spend 5 source, going down to 7. And Baza has 4 health, 1 attack, 3 move, and Water Walker and Survivor. So Water Walker means that when it is on a water hex, that spires will not be able to attack it. And then Survival says if we were ever to end a turn without moving or attacking, gets to regain 1 health. So a lot of survivability with Baza. And I'll show you our plan once we get to the deployment step. One thing before we continue on to the build phase. I do believe I actually played that lookout wrong. I don't believe we actually get to explore. Remember, it's not an explorer. You're just supposed to look at it, but I went ahead and revealed it. I even said when we did it that it's not an explorer. So I'm just going to remove that graft minion and we'll just keep going. And well, there's nothing I can really do about the minions that took that damage last turn, but I will go ahead and put the fortress back up to 10 as well. Now, since we gained some cannonballs, let's go over that cannonball die real quick. So the die is a counter, and as a build option during the build phase, we can spend 2 source to increase this die by 1 to a maximum of 5. So now that we got some cannonballs, let's go over that real quick. As a build option during the build phase, we can spend 2 source to increase the die by 1 to a max of 5. Then at the start or end of your turn during the onslaught phase, if you have core cannons or flank cannons, which we don't yet, we can fire cannonballs. For each cannonball we wish to fire, we decrease the die by 1 and declare which available cannon will fire, and roll a spire attack die to determine the amount of damage dealt. The roll damage is dealt to the closest active unit, spire, or fortress gate in a direct line from the cannon. This is not considered an attack, and Sky and any other chips in this line are ignored. So we still don't have any of our cannons online to be able to make use out of that, but that's something we will definitely be starting to consider in the future. And I think for our build phase, this could be risky, but I think I want to spend all 7 of our source in order to get our powder infusion upgrade. That says whenever we construct air clipper or gunboat spires, we add +1 range to the upgrades. So this round, we're definitely looking for as many ways as possible to get our source back up so we can then start constructing these spires of our own. And now we'll go to the prep phase, and we have 7 CP this time around, so let's see how we want to deploy. On the bottom of our stack, we'll have a gunner grouped with a swabby, then a buccaneer grouped with a swabby, and on top, we're going to deploy Baza with the source vest that gives it entropy and speed. Entropy says that if the health of this unit is reduced to exactly 1, it gets discarded, and then we deal 2 damage to each adjacent non-Neuroran unit. And then the upside of that is that we get speed, which increases our movement by 1. So Baza now has 4 move. These Shada are deploying with a wind and a water. So the water has 3 health, 3 attack, and 3 move with Submerge and Water Walker. Submerge says that if it starts its turn on a water hex, it recovers 1 health, and Water Walker, that's the same that Baza has, where it cannot be attacked by opposing spires while on a water hex. And the air are deploying 3 upgraded Harriers. So the reason we went for that Baza hero is because one of our objectives is to defeat all of the air minaret towers. And there are a lot of water hexes by these south towers here. So we can bring Baza down here, and especially for this one, we'll be able to just stand in the water, not be able to get hit by it, and just keep attacking it. And that should be a pretty easy way to be able to take that down. And now we can begin our onslaught phase. So we will start with movement. And now with Mistbane, I think we're going to go check that landmark out. We do also need to roll the die when we cross over that floating rock now. And we didn't roll a miss, so we're good. We are not in range of any spires, so we'll do our explore step. So I'm going to go ahead and reveal the Entangled Rift here. It comes in with 1 HP. It has Secret Passage and Overload. So Secret Passage says that This chip basically, we can knock that health off and then be able to step onto it and move this chip onto another. I believe, do we switch it with a landmark? Yes, and then we can switch it with another unrevealed landmark on an adjacent hex tile and swap them. But because we're on that floating island there, I think technically we're not adjacent to another landmark. So at least it does still have overload, which means when we're adjacent to it, we can spend 6 source and then get its reward, which is going to be a fortress upgrade. So that's something we could potentially do if we ever get an excess amount of source. Now the Shada will go with their movement. That'll be it for the Shada. Now we can move to the air. And I'm not a Cloudspire expert, but I think I'm doing this correctly. So whenever the air would deploy and move down here, I believe the first two are going to come down because those two spots are closer or at least a lateral movement as far as distance from their mark. But even though we could go into that path hex with the other one, I don't think they will because that's technically farther away than their deployment spot. Either way, that's how we're going to play it, and it's back to us. And I'm going to start with moving our Mistbane back over to the other hex tile. Then we'll have Baza move. And now let's roll for both Mistbane and then Baza's movement. Okay, so Mistbane is good. And Baza is as well. Then our grouped minions will slowly push forward. Now we'll explore with Baza. Okay, and we have a Sibissa. So 4 health, 2 movement, and it has Toxic Secretion. Toxic Secretion means if a non-grease unit moves onto or adjacent to this unit that they take 1 damage. And I don't think I want to reveal that yet until I get some more upgrades that'll help me take it out quicker. And it's back to the Shada, so the wind is going to start with movement. And we're all just out of the way for an attack, so we can go onto the air. And I think I played that movement right because all of those spots after it comes down onto that hex are lateral movements and it has the movement points. I think it would travel all the way to this spot. But they haven't quite caught up to us yet, so it goes back to us once again. We'll start by moving our Swabbies forward. And then next, we're going to get Mistbane out of the way. That water is looking very scary. And lastly, we'll move Baza. Then we'll skip our Explore step and go straight into attack. And our only valid target is this Spire here with Baza. So it'll lose 1 attack upgrade. And then it goes back to the Shada. We will have the water move up 1 space, and then we'll do our attack. The wind will defeat the Swabby, which will reveal I believe the Buccaneer underneath, and let us upgrade it. And we actually don't have any source to pay the cost for Press Gang, so this Swabby is going to get removed. And now for the air, everybody will just move up 1 more space. Quick Strike definitely not getting any work in when we don't have any Spires out. So for our turn, we're not doing any movement, and we are not in range of any Spires, so we skip that step, and we are going to explore this landmark. Then we'll go to our attack step, and with the Buccaneer, we will defeat the landmark minion. With its 3 health, we have Hunter, so our 2 attack stat becomes 1 when attacking landmarks, and we're going to gain that 3 source. Then we'll attack the Spire with Baza once again, taking off its range upgrade. Now for the Shada, the wind is going to attack the Buccaneer for 1, but it will retaliate for 2, defeating the wind and gaining us 1 source. The air are currently still hung up by the water, so it is going to just go back to us. Starting with movement, we'll move our Buccaneer forward, and then we'll finally get our second group of minions over to the other hex tile. And I am now noticing that I forgot to roll when we first crossed over with the other Swabby. So I'll roll twice. We'll go ahead and roll for the Swabby that just crossed over, and then we'll make another roll and see if maybe we need to take a bit of health off of our Buccaneer. And we rolled a miss, so that actually defeats our Swabby. And we'll go ahead and promote our Gunner underneath. Then for our Buccaneer. Okay, it's good. And since we now have source, we will spend 1 going down to 3 to put that Swabby back into our barracks. And we're not going to move any of our heroes. We are still not in range of any Spires, so we'll go ahead and attack. We're going to start with our Buccaneer, and thanks to our Pistolier ability, we can attack from 2 spaces away, so we'll be able to hit either of those Harrier, and we'll just do the one right behind the water. Then, thanks to our Gunner's air defense, we can attack the water that has flying because that wind shear tower still is up. Well, wait just 1 second. Because the water has flying, we can actually displace it. So what should have happened is our Buccaneer would have moved 2 and swapped spaces with the water. So then when we killed that unit, we wouldn't have attacked from 2 spaces away, and therefore we get to stay on our upgraded side. And we are now adjacent, so we do take 3 retaliation damage and are defeated as well. If I wanted to, I could choose to take out the Harrier instead, but I think the water is a lot meaner, and at least our hero can come in and start hitting the Harrier. And then lastly, Baza will defeat this minaret. And that will gain us another source, putting us to 5. And since Baza defeated the Spire, we have 2 upgrade spots for him. We're going to go ahead and equip a range upgrade. But wait, that's right. You can only give heroes with the range talent already additional range. So we actually will give an extra attack upgrade. So now doing 2 damage each attack. And I think that's going to be fine because as long as we get to this next one in the next 2 turns, which we should definitely be able to do, maybe we can hang back here and try to go after some of these landmarks to get more source. Now the water will move forward 3. Then the air will move up. And we don't have any spires anyways, but even if we did, the Harrier would be able to attack first and defeat our Buccaneer. And with that, it's back to us. We'll start with Baza, and we'll go down and check out this landmark. And we found a Traxxer Loner. It has Engage and Foreboding. So Foreboding means we have to reveal it right away, and Engage means that we have to attack this landmark if we're able. And so for the attack step, I am going to attack the Traxxer Loner, and it's going to take 2 damage because I have that attack upgrade now, and we will take 1. Now for the Shada, the water is going to make it onto our plank. We don't have any spires to protect us, so it will be able to attack us for 3, and we'll go down to 7 HP, but then we will retaliate and defeat it. So for defeating the water, we gain 3 source, putting us up to 7. And because we defeated it with a Fortress Retaliation, our morale die is going to go up by 1. So let's talk about the morale die a little bit. We're able to, during the prep phase, decrease this die by any amount to gain that amount of CP. And so Fortress Retaliation defeating an enemy is one way to increase it. We can also increase it by defeating enemies with cannonball damage or pulling the plank. So we're going to go up to 1 on the morale. Now it's just us and the air, so those Harrier are going to move forward. And it's back to us. Now, for the start of our turn, we are going to use one of our limited build options. You get 2 per wave in order to construct our first spire. So we're going to go down to 3 source in order to get our first air clipper. So it starts with 1 attack and 1 range upgrade innately, but because we took that 1 fortress upgrade, we're going to get to start with 2 range upgrades. And most importantly, it has air defense. And I just realized, sorry, Mistbane is in the forest. We shouldn't have been able to go there. We can only go onto the grassland plains and the path. So I'm just going to place us over on the grasslands. Everything else would have been the same because they wouldn't have gone farther away off the path to get to us at any point in time. So I'll just start us there. And after our limited build, we'll begin with our move, and we'll have Mistbane move over towards the Harrier. And we're not going to have Baza move. We're not in the range of any spires, so we'll make our attacks. We'll go ahead and make our attack with Mistbane using our Swashbuckler ability to increase our damage by 1 for each adjacent opposing unit. So we do 2 damage, which will defeat the Harrier. And I try not to do this too much, but with the Harriers, they only give us 1 source anyways, so not too big of a loss to help us prevent potentially some more damage to our fortress. Then Baza will attack and defeat the Traxxer Loner, and we'll get another 4 source, and Baza gets to get another upgrade, and I think this time, let's go ahead and give him a fortification upgrade. And so fortifications on heroes still only get taken away with 1 damage. Basically, it'll prevent any amount of the next damage dealt to your unit. So we are back up to 7 source, and that's the end of our turn. So the air will start with their movement, and because they don't have flying, they are going to have to roll for the floating rocks. Okay, and they take no damage. But then we go to the Spire attack step, and our air clipper is within range to attack for 1 die, so let's roll it again. And of course, we would get the miss on the one we didn't want to see it on. But okay, so it evades our Spire attack. So with the start of our turn, I think we are going to just move our Mistbane back onto that plain zone. And let's start to move Baza back towards that Toxic Secretion minion that we'll be able to defeat a lot easier now. We'll roll for crossing the floating rock. And there we go. Then for exploration, we'll go ahead and reveal it. Then we'll go ahead and attack for 2. And that'll be it for us, so back to the air. The air gets to move forward 1 and attack our fortress gate with quick strike before our spire will get an attack off. So our fortress gate goes down to 5 health, and then we retaliate for 1. Now our spire gets a chance to attack. And with that one, we will defeat it. Unfortunately, because it was our Spire attack and not the retaliation, we are not going to gain 1 on our morale track. We will still get that 1 source, however, going up to 8. We will start wave 3 by rolling the die. And 2 means we don't have to roll the attack die for moving over floating rocks with our Horizon's Wrath units. Then with the income phase, once again, we get 0 source and we get to go to a normal market. And I think for this market phase, I'm going to hold off on buying anything. I think I want to save my source for more spires and fortress upgrades. For the build phase, we're going to spend 4 source to unlock our core cannons. So number 2 and 3, the ones adjacent to our plank, are going to be active now. Then we'll spend 3 source for the flight deck, leaving us with 1 source remaining. And now we can construct shadow skiffs and lifeboats. So I'm just going to put some spire attack die there just to show that those are the cannons that are active. And now we have our prep phase, and this time around we get 9 CP to play with. So let's see how we want to spend that. For this deployment step, we will use our CP to increase. For this deployment, we will use our morale die to increase our CP by 1. And so on the bottom, we are going to have a gunner. Above that, 2 swabbies. Above that, a glider. And at the very top, we are going to have Traxtail, one of our heroes, with the makeshift wings to give him flying as well as the swashbuckler. So we'll start this onslaught phase with our movement. After movement, we can go down to Baza for our attack step. And 2 more damage will defeat the landmark minion, giving us 4 source. And now we can go to the Shada. Because we took out the C3 Air Spire, we do not have to summon any more air this round, and we also took out the C4 Air Spire, so we're not going to be seeing any more air for the rest of this combat outside of these 2 spires remaining. So the Shada start with the movement. After the wind and water, you can see we have a new unit here, the Hurricane. So this has 3 health, 3 attack, 3 movement, downpour flying, and it can move on path as well as grassland and water hexes. And the downpour ability is pretty nasty. During the Spire's fire step, if this unit is targetable by an opposing Spire, all 2s rolled by that Spire are set to blanks before being resolved, even if this unit is not the Spire's target. And we have 1 more new unit, the Mud. With a whopping 7 health, 3 attack, 2 movement, it can also walk on path, mountain, and water, and is armored and has mire. Armored means damage dealt to the unit is reduced by 1. And mire means that if one of our units would move adjacent to it, we immediately have to end our movement as we get stuck up in the mud. But that will be all for the Shada, and it goes back to us. Now for our movement phase, we'll start with our heroes, and we're going to use Mistbane to provide us a little bit of defense here. So we're going to move him into the path. Then we're going to move Traxtail next to the Windshear Spire. We do have Forest Allowance, so we are able to get right up next to it, and we have Flying, so the Inferno Spire is not going to be able to attack us, or the Flame Pillar Spire. And lastly, since this is a turn where our units do not have to roll on the floating rocks, I think we're going to quickly scoot back up into this middle area with Baza and check out this other landmark. Now we'll finish up with our minions. We are out of range of all spires, so we'll perform a Explore with Baza. And we've got a Swart. 4 health, 1 attack. It has Quick Counter and Untamed. Quick Counter means that it is going to deal its retaliation damage before we deal our attack damage. So it can defeat us before we defeat it, but I don't think that's going to happen here. So we're going to go to our attack step, and Baza will attack for 2. So we are first dealt the 1 from the Swart, which will knock off our fortification upgrade. Then Traxtail will follow that up by taking the fortification upgrade off of the Windshear. My bad, it was a range upgrade first. But after that, it goes back to the Shada. Now the Shada will advance, but Mistbane will be briefly holding them up. Now Mistbane will be attacked by the wind, so he's going to take 1 damage, and we will deal 1 damage back. Now for our movement, let's start with the minions. And all of our heroes will remain where they are. Still no Spire Fire or Exploration, so we are going to go into attack mode. So while that Windshear Spire is still up, all of those Shada units still have flying, so our Mistbane cannot do anything about his position. But Traxtail is trying to help out with that right now, so we are going to attack the Windshear Spire again, and this time we will get rid of one of those fortification upgrades. Then Baza will attack the Swart, and we will take that retaliation damage first, going down to 2 HP, but then we will defeat the Swart and gain 4 more source. And lastly, our Glider does have flying and 2 range, so I think instead of defeating the wind here, we're going to go ahead and ping water for 1. The Shada are still locked in place, so we're going to go to the attack step. And since wind cannot defeat any of our units, it is going to go for our hero that it can damage. So Mistbane is going to take 1, and then Mistbane will retaliate and defeat wind. I did forget to point out that because Baza got a kill and we did lose our fortification upgrade, we went ahead and gave Baza another one of those. So now Mistbane is on the promoted side with Pistolier, and we were able to go back up to our 3 health, and we'll gain 1 more source from defeating the wind. And that puts us up to 10. We'll start this turn with hero movement, and we are going to kind of sidetrack from what we were doing a little bit just to help out. I think this will be okay. We're going to bring Baza up to the wind shear. We're going to leave Traxdale where we're at, and then we're going to move Mistbane as well back onto that plain space tucked out of the way. Actually, I think we may still want to leave Mistbane here, because if we can choke up our enemies here, remember, we have our core cannons online now, so we could potentially send some fireballs down the line to help out, because they do get to target flying enemies. It just hits the unit that you get to first. So yeah, I think we're going to leave Mistbane there, and then we'll move our minions. Now, we finally got a couple people in range of the Flame Pillar here, so either Baza or the Glider. And since it definitely cannot defeat Baza because we have the fortification upgrade, it is going to target our glider because rolling its attack die could defeat us. And the flame pillar is at its maximum amount of upgrades, so the inferno will not trigger. And it missed, perfect. And now we can proceed with our attacks. Doesn't matter which order we go here, but we will have Baza and Traxtail both attack the wind shear, so 2 more upgrades off of it, leaving only 1 remaining. Then we are going to have our glider hit the hurricane for 1. Then for the Shada turn, we've got them at a choke point here, but the water is finally going to be able to smash through and defeat our glider. Back to us, we'll start with our minion movement. Then for my heroes, we'll leave Traxdale and Baza where we're at, and we'll move Mistbane in 1. And I forgot, that's right, we're on our upgraded side, so we can go through Forest now with Mistbane. So we're going to put ourselves right there between the Gunner and the Swabby. So basically, we can kind of put our Gunner stationary until we move our Mistbane out of the way and keep sniping those units from hopefully the safety of those rocks. That is until we get to the mud, I believe. Then the Flame Pillar will go again, and it can defeat the Swabby, so it's going to attack that again. So it's going to attack that minion. And with that, that will defeat the Swabby. We are not going to spend our source, and we are going to go ahead and upgrade our Gunner. So now we will go to our attack step, and we will have Traxtail take out the wind shear, and all of the Shada that don't already have flying will lose it. That also gives us 3 source. And we're going to give Traxtail an attack upgrade. Then because our Gunner got the upgrade, we now have range 3, and we're able to shoot the water for 2 and defeat it. That gives us another 3 source and puts us up to 16. And now at the end of our turn, because Baza did not move or attack, we can regain 1 health going up to 3. And now for the Shada turn, we are going to have the Mud go first since it is slower and will slow down that hurricane. And that'll be all for them, and back to us. So something I hadn't even realized until we defeated that Wind Shear Spire is there is a water hex right behind them. So Baza is actually going to be safe to get back there and start dealing damage to that Flame Pillar. So we'll start our movement with our heroes and move Baza onto that water hex. Then we'll move Traxtail up to continue helping. And we're going to push inward a little bit because the Shada are past where they're going to be attacking our heroes back here. And we might be able to go up and get that landmark this round. Or this wave. We're leaving Mistbane where he's at, and we'll move our minions, which is just going to be the Swabby. And I could go ahead and take care of the Hurricane with the Gunner for our attack. We don't have any valid targets for the Spirit Fire because we have Water Walker, so Baza isn't going to get hit, and Traxtail has Flying, and they don't have Air Defense. So we're good on that front. But I think I want to start whittling down the Mud since it's going to be at the front and blocking the Hurricane where it's at anyways. Ideally, we get at least 1 kill, if not both of them, with our cannons in this round. That'll give us extra CP for the final wave. So we'll have our Gunner attack the Mud for 2, and with armor that means it goes down to 1. Then Baza and Traxtail each take an upgrade off of the Flame Pillar. Now, the Mud is just going to come through and absolutely wipe away our Swabby. We will pay the 1 source this time, so we do at least have 1 Swabby in our barrack for the final wave. For this round, we will leave both Baza and Traxtail where they're at so they can finish off that Pillar of Flame, and then we're going to have Mistbane move up to confront the Mud. Then our Gunner will follow behind, and now we go into the attack phase, and we will have Baza attack first, and then we'll have Traxtail defeat the Pillar of Fire. I've been saying Flame Pillar, but it's the Pillar of Fire. We gain another 3 source, and Traxtail flips to the promoted side, which gives us Relentless, which means whenever we retaliate, we roll the attack die until we roll a 0 or a 2, and then deal that total amount of damage that we rolled. We lose our attack upgrade on Traxtail as well whenever we flipped. And now we'll attack the mud with Mistbane, and we will use our Swashbuckler ability to increase the attack value by 1, so then when it hits armor, it gets reduced back down to 1. And then the mud comes in and retaliates with a big hit of 3 and defeats Mistbane. Then we're going to have the gunner fire off 2 against the mud, which will again get reduced down to 1 because of armored. So this is a bit of a long shot, but I do want to go ahead and try to use both of my cannonballs to take out the mud here, because it is the first unit in a direct line from our cannon number 3, and I've got 2 cannonballs. We roll the attack die for each of those, and then if we get 2 on both of them, we will defeat it, because this does not count as an attack on the mud. So it doesn't get reduced by armored. Alright, so 2 damage does bring it down to 2. Now the Shada will advance, and the mud can move on mountain, so it's going to get up to that Path X right before the floating rock, and then the Hurricane is going to engage our gunner. So first our Spire will get to fire on the mud, so armor prevents any damage from being done to the mud, and the Hurricane will defeat our gunner. Alright, so we've got our 2 heroes remaining. I think we definitely need Baza to start heading back over to the Fortress Gate to hopefully help cut off the mud. And I think Baza honestly should be able to handle the mud and the Hurricane. So I think we're going to leave Traxtail over here to start working on this spire and this landmark. The minaret is going to get 2 attack die rolls on us. Now the minaret gets a spire on us. We're hoping for not 2 2s. Okay, so 2 damage to us. Now we'll go ahead and explore. And okay, I think this is actually a really good pull here. This is a rogue gunner. It has 3 range and foreboding, so we do have to reveal it. So I think we will just be leaving our rogue gunner there, kind of really close to the fortress gate there, maybe cause some chaos in this final wave coming up. So therefore, for our attack, we will be attacking the minaret spire, taking off that 1 attack upgrade. And before I forget, I should have done this at the start during the limited build step. I still have 2 for this wave I haven't used. I definitely have plenty of source for it. So I want to go ahead and put another attack on my, the Air Ripper. And that's going to cost me 4 source. All right, Air Clipper, not Air Ripper. Let's get on with the Shada movement. That mud is going to move up and be able to attack. Now let's get the Shada moved up. And now that the Hurricane is in range of our Air Clipper, I think we might actually want to target it with our attack instead, just to hopefully roll 2 1s and defeat it. And we did. So that takes care of the Hurricane, and it will give us 3 source. Now the mud gets to attack, and we'll take off that attack upgrade that we just gave to it. Now for our turn, I think we might want to play it safe with Traxtail, because we did take 2 damage, and even with just 1 attack die, we could lose. But, well, I really want to try to get as much of this renown as we can. So, no, we just got to really hope we don't roll a 2. We'll leave Traxtail where we're at, and we're going to move Baza in front of the mud. Then the minaret will attack our Traxtail. Okay, and just for 1, we're still in it. Then for our attacks, we'll start with Traxtail and take off that range, leaving it with just 1 upgrade. Then Baza will attack for 2, which becomes 1, and the mud is down to its last HP. And sorry, I keep forgetting to do it at the beginning of the limited build step, but I am going to go ahead and use our last limited build for the wave to construct a gunboat. Baza did get retaliated for 3 against the mud, so we will lose that fortification upgrade. The mud is going to be able to push slightly forward, being able to move through water. And if we roll a 2 here with our Spire attack, then we could defeat the mud. Okay, and unfortunately we did not get it. And then the mud will attack and defeat Baza. And now we're back to our turn. We only have our Traxtail remaining, and the question is, do we want to keep it around with the 1 HP, or do we want to risk it to try to take out this tower? And I really think we just want to risk it here at this point. We kind of got ourselves into some bad rolls there earlier. We were really hoping for more misses, but maybe we can get a lucky miss here. So we're going to stay where we're at, and we get a Spire attack on us. And I definitely thought there were more misses on the die, but it looks like we only have a 1 in 6 chance, so maybe this wasn't so smart. Yep, so that is going to be the end for Traxtail. And so with the mud, the last one remaining on the battlefield, we will get 1 more shot with the Spire to defeat it before it attacks our fortress gate. So we need to roll a 2 here. And of course. So the mud then attacks our fortress for 3, and that takes us down to 2 HP remaining. Very scary, but we do retaliate it and defeat it, which does increase our morale die by 1. We then gain 4 source and end the wave. I am just now realizing that we should have probably rolled against the mud on the floating rocks because they didn't have flying anymore. So they should have been rolling on that as well. So we did ourselves a little bit of a disservice. We're still just going to take that damage, keep going, and we'll just see how we do. So let's see what we get for this event phase. And all right, so we're going to increase the morale die by 1. So we have 2 morale, effectively giving us 13 CP for the final wave. For this market, we're going to spend 2 source and take that Earthscape. For our build phase, we'll start by building a Shadow Skiff on this middle hex A. Shadow Skiffs come on with 1 fortification and the Run Silent, Translocate, and Maroon talents. Run Silent means we get to ignore influence restrictions when constructing the spire. Marooned means that this spire does not grant influence, and Translocate means as a limited build option, we may swap this spire's position with another Horizon Wrath spire on this isle or an adjacent one. You may then change the direction to swap spire's arrow points. So if you remember our objectives, I'm sure you can see where we are going with that. And as a matter of fact, before we do that, I think we want to go ahead and spend 3 more source on our second launch bay upgrade, so it comes in with a second fortification. Then we're going to use 8 of our 9 last source to construct another air clipper in the center there next to our Shadow Skiff and give it an attack upgrade. And now let's get ready for our last deployment with 13 CP. At the bottom of our stack, we're going to have a gunner, followed by a glider on top of that, then a swabby, and finally Captain Tinbeard. Okay, let's begin our final waves movement. You'll see this huge stack of Shada we've got to contend with for this last wave in just a minute. And now the Shada with the deployment stack taller than our spires. We have 2 wind on top, so let's move them. Followed by a lava with Lahar and Eruption. Lahar means when an opposing unit without flying moves onto a hex adjacent to this unit, it takes 1 damage. And Eruption works differently for the AI than it does for a player, but it says at the end of this unit's movement, if it is adjacent to an opposing fortress gate, or if it has 2 health or less, and is adjacent to an opposing unit or spire, it will deal 3 damage to all adjacent units, spires, and fortress gates, then return the minion to the barracks. So it's going to move forward with 2. Then we have Steam with range 2 and air defense, and then another Hurricane and Mud. And now we'll get to make an attack with our air clipper. We have an attack of 2 and a range of 3, so we're going to hit that first wind. And 2 hits will defeat it. For the attack phase, the wind will attack the Shadow Skiff, but because it has fortification, it needs 2 damage to be defeated or to be removed, and the wind only has an attack of 1. But the lava and the steam will both have an attack on the landmark minion. We can decide which one we want to go first here. And it will be defeated from both of these attacks, so I think we want steam to attack first, because it can be the most annoying to deal with when it messes with our spire rolls. With our movement, we'll start with Tinbeard, and that'll be everything for us as we start to close in and give it back over to the Shada. So let's begin with their movement. Now we've got a pretty good shot at being able to take out steam before it attacks our Shadow Skiff, so let's see if we can get those hits we need. And yes, more than enough. We take out the steam with our air clipper, which gets us another 3 source. And now the Shada are unable to attack, so it'll go back to us. And once again, I'm sorry, I am no Cloudspire's rules expert. I thought there was a step in the onslaught phase where you could add earthscapes, but that is only during the build phase, so I did buy that earthscape to use this phase, and my intention was to connect these isles here, so I am going to go ahead and place this. And since this would have happened during the build step and we had only 1 source remaining then, we would still be able to do this. And we're going to go ahead and place a lifeboat on that source well. And lifeboats have this rigging ability, which means our heroes can step on these as if they were a path hex, and it will immediately transport us back to the fortress gate. And then we remove the lifeboat and bring that back to our barracks. So the intention here is to be able to get our hero over to get this last minaret spire over here. And then if we still have some Shada we need to worry about, we'll have a lifeboat available to bring him back. We will then start our turn by moving our minions. And then Tinbeard will move. And it'll go back to the Shada. And maybe one of these videos I will remember the limited build option timing, but it is not going to be this video. I am going to use our limited build that we have with the Shadow Skiff to move our gunboat over onto that hex. And now, one of our objectives is to have a gunboat with 5 upgrades on that hex at the end of wave 4. So as long as we can keep it from taking damage, we will complete the scenario. We want to leave it in the direction it's facing. It has 4 range, so we will be able to hit those 2 first path hexes when they start to go around that mountain. And these last few ones are pretty slow, so I think this is going to be a good opportunity to get some spire damage off on them to really whittle them down by the time they get to our fortress gate. But with that, it goes to the Shada. Let's start with their movement. Now our gunboat will get to fire on the hurricane. Okay, perfect. So that's 2 hits, taking it down to 1 HP. And wow, let's see. So because I made a mistake on pathing here, that lava gets into the mountain and doesn't go around like we want it to. So really, if we rewind and had played that smartly, we would have used the last of our source to construct another gunboat at that location, forcing the lava to go the long way around like we had wanted. That wind should also be 1 space back, but that's not going to matter with our placement. And now let's go back to the Shada movement. Now this looks like a lot more of what we had wanted. So now we have multiple spires that are going to get to fire here. We're going to have our air clipper fire at the mud. And then our gunboats cannot hit the hurricane, so our gunboat here at Hex A is going to hit the lava, and our other gunboat will also fire off at the mud. First, the air clipper. Okay, 2 damage. The mud is armored, so it takes 1. Now our gunboat firing at the mud. Okay, that's going to be 0. And now our gunboat firing at the lava. Okay, 3 to the lava. So we'll begin with the attacks, and the wind is going to be able to defeat our Swabby, so it will attack and do just that. And that will allow us to promote our gunner. Then the lava and the hurricane will both remove a range upgrade from the gunboat, but that's okay because it still has 2 range, and that is the most it's ever going to need from where it's at. We'll start out by moving our hero this time, so Timbeard is going to move up towards the minaret. But we don't have water walking, so we are going to have to stop here at the path. And we are going to have to get through this before we get to the spire, whatever it is. Now for our minions. All right, we've got our glider in position to be able to take out this minaret as long as we can survive its spire attack. Oh, but wait. No, it doesn't have its range upgrade anymore. So it only has the 1 range, and it actually isn't going to fire on us. So we will be able to take out that spire, no problem. And if that's the case, and then our gunner will move up. So let's go ahead, and we don't have any spire activation, so we will go ahead and explore. Okay, and it is a gate port, so it has rift walk and overload. So we could just spend 6 source to blow this up essentially and get a relic. But it also has rift walk, but that's not going to matter because we don't have any other revealed gate ports. So we're going to be able to just pass right over this. And then we'll go to our attack step. And the only thing we have is our gunner. And I think we'll have the gunner shoot the hurricane since it's currently, until it gets to the other air clipper, our only unit that has air defense. So we're going to hit the hurricane for 2, bring it down to 1 HP. Then our glider will take care of this minaret, and we gain 1 source. The Shada will be able to move up just a little bit. Then our gunboat can make an attack on the mud. Okay, with armored, 1 still goes through. And then for the Shada attacking, the wind isn't going to be able to kill our gunner, so it is actually going to damage the spire per the unit attack priority. And then both of the other units adjacent to the spire will attack it, and that's going to remove all of its upgrade ships. So that spire will be destroyed, but it served its purpose in kind of holding them off and letting us get a little bit of extra damage dealt there at a choke point. Now we'll start off with our minions. Our glider is going to make it up to the fortress gate. And our gunner is stuck, but Captain Timbeard will move up. And we'll just wait on that chip. This last minaret will be going up against our Timbeard. And 2 damage. Now for our attacks, Timbeard has Pistolier, so we'll shoot from 2 away and get rid of this bottom upgrade. And now because of Pistolier, we get to flip to our other side. And flipping will put us back up to 7. And finally, we're going to have our gunner with range 3 shoot and take out the hurricane. And that will get us 3 more source, putting us at 4. And lastly, 1 damage to the fortress gate with our glider, and then we get retaliated and go back down to 1. And now when we activate the minions, the lava and the mud are equidistant, but we want the lava to move up first so it gets in the mud's way because it could take out our gunner, so it will at least leave our gunner around for one more turn. So nobody's in spire range at the moment, so we'll have the lava attack us first, and then the wind will attack us. So we will retaliate against the lava for 2 damage, and we will lose 2 from both attacks. And it's back to us. Tinbeard is staying where he's at, so is the glider, and I guess so is our runner. So let's just go ahead and get to the spire step. So the minaret is attacking us for just 1 die now. And so 1 damage to Tinbeard. Now we'll go to our attack step and we'll start with our hero. So Tinbeard is taking out that range upgrade. So now while we are at range 2, the minaret is not going to be able to attack us. Because we use Pistolier, we're going to flip back over to the other side and we'll go back up to our 7 health. Then our glider will attack the fortress gate, bringing it down to 8, and then it will die of retaliation. And lastly, our gunner is going to attack the mud for 2, and with armored, that means it will take 1. Now to the Shada, none of them are moving, and now the lavas, after the movement phase, eruption is going to activate. So at the end of its movement, if it has 2 or less health and is adjacent to an opposing unit or spire, it deals 3 damage to all adjacent units, spires, and fortress gates. So everybody adjacent to the lava is about to take 3 damage, and this is not an attack. So the mud's armored won't block any of this, and that is going to cause a lot of damage. That's it for the Shada, and it goes back to us. Captain Tinbeard is the last of our units on the board. We are going to end our turn there. The minaret does not have Spire Fire range, so we are going to go into attack and finish off this final minaret, gaining us 1 more source. All right, so we'll flip Captain Tinbeard over, but I don't think it's going to matter too much at this point. We now have 2 of our objectives complete. And so let's just deal with this final Shada minion, this mud at 1. It's going to move forward 2, and then we get a chance to attack. So a 2 on the die here could end it. Okay, and only 1 on that roll, so that's not going to defeat the mud. It goes back to us. We saw this outcome potentially happening here, so Tinbeard is going to move onto the lifeboat, and that's going to transport us all the way back to the fortress gate. And we'll end our turn there. The mud is going to advance. So now we get to roll that spire attack die for it crossing over the floating rock. Maybe make up for forgetting it to do it in the last wave. And so this is not considered an attack. So rolling a miss means that the mud is defeated and we win. Oh, and of course a 2. We've been looking for a couple more of those on our other rolls, but all right, the mud makes it past the floating rock. Now let's roll for our attack with the air clippers. We needed this 2 for this roll, so let's see if we can get it again. And there's the miss. Oh, we really needed those switched. But okay, we did not get it, so the mud is going to attack our air clipper and take off that range upgrade at the bottom. And now for the finale, we will move up forward with Tinbeard. And we can shoot him for 2. Armor knocks it down to 1, which ends the wave. And we have successfully claimed victory with 2 renown. We were able to defeat all of the minaret spires, as well as get a gunboat in that Hex A. Now, this one was a brain burner, but I had a lot of fun with it. It took me about probably the amount of time of 3 Slay the Spire videos to film this one video. So put a lot of work into it. If you like to see it, I would love to do more. Let me know in the comments. We can keep continuing the Harbinger campaign if you want to see more solo scenarios. This has been Solo Party. My name is Kane. Thanks for watching.